I think sometimes when I don't believe in it anymore, there's like people believing in it. It's also like, I think all the kind, amazing network we built up here in Copenhagen or Denmark, it's really supportive, which I think maybe it sounds a bit odd, but it gives you a lot of energy. If you have a moment where you don't believe in it, someone else believes in it, and you're like, okay, we have to rock it somehow.
Designing the future is essential for shaping the world we want to live in. That's why it's more crucial than ever to be strategic about it, think long-term, and embrace complexity rather than avoid it. The field of strategic design is growing, and as two strategic designers, we want to explore how it's changing the way we design products, buildings, organizations, and landscapes. In this podcast, we'll interview strategic designers and professionals in the field, hoping to enlighten both ourselves and others about the future of designing with a strategic mindset and skill set. We're Emily and Isaac, both strategic designers with different backgrounds. Isaac is an industrial designer from Finland, and Emily has a business background in design culture and economics from Denmark. Join us for today's conversation with our guest, where we'll be unfolding strategic design. Welcome to today's episode. Today we're meeting David Maximilian Schneider, who is a co-founder of Recraft Design Studio. David has a master's in architecture from the Master in Strategic Design and Entrepreneurship from the Royal Danish Academy. David holds a bachelor in architecture from Darmstadt University. He has previously been a part of the green transition team at the contractor NCC and as a freelance architectural designer in Germany, Norway, Switzerland, and India. Welcome, David, and thank you so much for joining our podcast. For all the listeners who don't know you, can you tell them who you are and what you do for a living?
Hi, everyone. I'm David, and thanks for having me. I think you introduced me quite precisely. I have a little background in, maybe that's important for the story where I went. I worked a lot in construction and craftsman, so I worked as a tailor before I started my architecture journey. And now I'm in Copenhagen. I'm, like you said, co-founder of Recraft Design Studio. We are a practice of redesigning reclaimed materials. So basically we take demolition waste and produce new wall claddings or building materials out of it. Mm. And what I do for a living, it's not exact. I mean, this is what I do in life, but it's not making a living at the moment because we are a startup. So I try to have my side gigs as an architectural freelancer, which apparently at the moment we don't have time at all because we have so much to do in the startup.
Yeah, the startup trap.
Yes, you're in.
Yes. And you were co-studying with us from 2022 to 2024. So we all graduated together last summer.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about why you wanted to begin and explore the strategic design program here in Copenhagen coming from architecture?
Yeah, for sure. So as you mentioned before, I started working after I did my bachelor. I worked in different offices, different places. Also doing the studies, I felt like there's something missing. You learn the craft of designing a building or like a space, but we never really like looked further. What is like behind the buildings or how they like the networks of people building them and doing the work. So I was pretty sure that I don't want to do a normal master in architecture. So I was looking for something else. And my partner, she studied system-oriented service design in Oslo. So when I stayed with her in Oslo, I got into this system thinking and worked a bit with a studio there. And then I was looking for masters which are not only architecture. And then I stumbled over the one in Copenhagen. And then also the word entrepreneurship was like something, maybe I should look it up because I was quite annoyed to, especially doing the freelance work. I had no idea about business or how to run a company or work with people. So I was like, okay, that's something I'm interested in. I read more about it, and this topic of co-creation or like collaborative work is also something we didn't do at all in my bachelor's. And I also I missed that a lot because while I was working, it was really nice to have meetings with like craftsmen or engineers and work together on a project instead of like just 3D model alone at home.
And what was your first impression of the education? How different was it compared to your bachelor's? Was it like a complete remake of what you thought architecture is and could be? And did you feel that those missing pieces that you didn't get in your bachelor's?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was completely different. So I was totally upside down. But as my partner's also a designer, I was always a bit intrigued into design. And that's also another reason why I chose this program, because you study with designers, so you get their perspective on working. I think there's something, maybe we'll talk about later, but strategic design I felt is like this mindset thing, which I had, I feel like, before already, but I didn't really know. Like this urge I had studying architecture, that not only drawing it alone, maybe going somewhere and meeting the community and doing bottom-up approach or something. I think this is something which was just like increased during this, or like unfolded, let's say. It was really unfolded during the studies. I could like see like, actually, this is something, how you can see also architecture and how you can work. So in that sense, I think it helped me understanding architecture more, because it's also not defined. It's something you unfolding strategic design, the term. I think you can also do the same with architecture. There's so many layers to it, and you redefine it every time. So it's something completely new for me now.
Yeah, because also architecture education in Germany compared to Denmark is quite different, right? It's more technical, or?
We have more institutions, so it depends really where you go. But you could study technically. Actually, what I did is really more like an apprenticeship. So I got trained in the crafts of an architect, or the skills like making models. So basically, I know how to design a fire station. So that's something,
Do you know how to design firework?
Someone has to. I mean, it's a complex thing.
Should have known.
But I think it's more like what we learned is like a carpenter learns how to make a cabinet, or like a window. We learned how to plan a building, and it was more practical in that way. But you could also go into a more academic way or more technical way. But I didn't know that before. So I just went to the school, and then I felt like I missed something. And also the academic part, I really enjoyed that also in Copenhagen, that we had to write something. We had to think about
it bridges a lot of different disciplines, both in between designers and architect, in between business students and the creative, you could say, or academy students, and then also, I should say, the academic with the practical field. Yeah.
Like you say, it's the academic, but also the rational thing about it. And it's also, again, interesting in strategic design, because you have this analytic part, which we didn't really analyze. You got a task. And also in the offices I work, I more had the task to design a fire station, and then you just do a fire station. And there's not like, what does it even mean? I don't know. Is there something changing in the...
Yeah, you don't get to question it much.
No.
Right?
No.
It's just a job.
Don't.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that today you work with Recraft, but can you walk us through what happened between your master's, or starting your master's in Copenhagen, to then actually starting and funding Recraft? What happened between those 2 years?
A lot. But I think if I would focus a bit more on Recraft, I think it started all with the research. So I'm the co-founder. We have Matti and Caroline. They're the other two co-founders. And Matti started with the research about what happens to buildings after the use is coming to an end. And some of them are, especially like also here in Denmark, they are not transformed. They're just like deconstructed or demolished. And this is kind of research Matti started. And then Caroline also joined the project as a researcher. And then I also jumped on. And it became more and more, we got deeper and deeper into the topic and understanding. And also, I think as we all have, back to the craft, like before I started architecture, I worked on the construction site. So I think we all had a little urge, or like an itching finger, to do something about it, because there's all this waste generated, and the resources go into the landfill. And I think that was something we kind of saw, this opportunity to also studying a bit about circular economy during our masters. There is actually like a resource we could use and make a new industry or some new materials. So we unfolded and looked at what is actually the problem, why people don't reuse these materials. And then basically it was about, they're not standardized. They just have weird shapes because they're demolished. They're just crushed down. So,
and is that basically what you're trying to solve, how to standardize the waste material so that it can be reused?
Yeah, but that's how it started. And then it became like, how can we make it more beautiful, or also like unfold a bit the story of the materials? Because I think also, again, my view on architecture changed a lot, because architecture in that sense is like this social interpretation of the space. So let's say we are in a school now, but the school will be not a school anymore at some point maybe. And it will be in housing or something. But the materials, they are physical. They will change. And how can we like transform also this story of like, it was the facade of a school. So now we worked, for example, at the school. How can this become like a new life? And then this layer of craftsmanship came to it, because I think it's a bit upsetting that we kind of only in the northern or western countries do only like services and like consulting and things. And we really have a hard time to produce things. Yeah. the craftsmen's, they're dying out. That's another agenda that we kind of put on our project then, and that's how it became Recraft.
Yeah. Have you found that there's some like main challenges why we also lose that craft here and why we don't produce that much? Is there something with, I don't know, like just the fact that it's so expensive or legislation or whatnot? Is there something you have found out?
Yeah, but I mean, both of it, the costs are too high because everyone has to be paid equal, which is good. I think that's why we then explore like automatization, for example, because that's the only way we have here to do it. And then you have all this. I mean, it's the same in Germany. The legislations are insane, so there's so much you have to fulfill that your hands are kind of tied.
Yeah,
and I do understand why nobody wants to do it, especially when I mean, we're quite naive, so we just started. We knew that it would be hard.
That's a good thing about entrepreneurship, right?
Yes, yes, yeah. When you have to keep somehow this naivety, because
otherwise you wouldn't start.
Yes, yeah, because it's hard physical work also, and I do understand why it's decreasing because it's like kind of challenging, and then we go to this physical entrepreneurship events. It's just like I think 2% of the startups in Denmark are physical.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all tech and knowledge.
Yeah, a lot of tech, and I mean in tech there's
Wow.
also the most that's the most.
But you
economic.
found an interesting spot, you could say, in the value chain and in the architectural sort of industry, because the physical buildings are there anyway, right? You don't need to produce new materials somewhere that's cheaper to produce materials. You know, it's actually, you have it right there. It's a matter of creating, as you say, a structure and a value chain where you then create new value of those materials and make it feasible for someone to use it. So it's an interesting spot to focus on. Is it for you, like you were interested in systems thinking via your girlfriend and her education, and you were also taught up as sort of with this apprenticeship, right? But when you then studied strategic design in Denmark, did it change your perspective or your sort of capabilities as an architect? Because now what you're doing, all of you, the three of you in Recraft, is of course still within architecture, but it has a completely different angle on it, you could say.
Yeah.
So how has strategic design changed your role as an architect?
I mean, it made it more complex.
Yeah.
In a way, I think it's kind of also cool. Talk with the other architects about it a lot. It's I think the skill of an architect is, you're not aware of it, but this you jump in scales. So you have the big scale of an urban thing, but then you have the little detail of the screw, how it fits. I mean, you do the same industrial design, Isaac, but I think the scale is just different. And then it's something you also use in strategic design. But there's more components to it, because I think what I did in my previous work in education, I didn't have the dynamic layers or the social layers to it. I just had the spatial layers, like from urban to, if that does make sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
And now that changed a lot also, like looking at the network of, let's go back to a building. It's not a static thing. It's quite dynamic. There's people working in it. It's changed. There's legislation. The regulation pushes that you have to make a new insulation on the building. So the building has to change. So it's nothing static at all. I think that's something I learned with the strategic design glasses, goggles, to like also consider that. I mean, that's also something we, in our team now, we're talking about production and industrialization. Is there a social layer we can, because one of the agendas we also have to create jobs in the new industry in Denmark. And how can we make a maybe social inclusive company? Our production. And we had a really nice session yesterday with like people from the Demokratie garage also. And maybe you can reintegrate people who have been out of the workforce for several reasons, but it's hard for them to come back. But maybe we can integrate them with this easy physical work.
In that case, would it be like to collect material or also like produce the new tiles or okay.
Yeah, we have a system, or we developed a little system where it's easy labor in a way, because you put the non-standardized materials in a box we standardized, and then the box is just like you cut it in different steps. So you just have to follow 1, 2, 3 step, and then you have the shape. And I think that's something kind of everyone who's like bodily healthy can do. And back to, I think in the podcast before, Ida Engholm was mentioned with this the power of using your hands, that it's kind of good for the mind if you do something. So there's this component of like, if you work physically, it does something to your mind. And I think that's, I was really happy doing the master thesis because the semesters before, I also got a bit like, there's a lot of thinking, but I missed a bit of the doing, and I don't have any hobbies like this anymore. So I missed that. It's meditative, no? So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But that's so interesting because especially if you're planning these processes of how you actually produce this material, in a sense, you're also designing that whole process, right? For someone to come in and then just easily follow the production line, right?
Yes.
So it's just so funny to hear that, you're working with material, but it's so much more than that.
Yeah, David, can you break down for everyone who don't know Recraft, what is it that Recraft does from sourcing materials to... Yeah.
So what we do, we work with, it's construction waste, precisely mostly demolition waste. And then even more precisely, we get concrete, asphalt and bricks because it's the most discarded materials, and they are really hard to process because they are also, the characteristics are, it's a hard material. So it's not like wood or something or metal, which you can melt. And then, we get it either delivered from our collaborators or we take it at the moment ourselves. So drive there, get it, and then we process them at the moment also ourselves and try to look into the industrialization of this process. And then we deliver it to clients, and the clients are like the craftsmen who just like, it's mostly tiles, like wall and floor claddings. And they've been used like every other tile you can buy in the construction market. So we had a testing or like a pilot project where, we talked to the carpenters or like the craftsmen who built it's a sauna project, the walls and the floor, and we asked like, was there any problem? They've been like, no, what should there be? It's like a tile. What
Tile is
should
a
be like
tile.
different? And then it's like, yeah. So that's the deliver
Nice.
part, but we don't assemble it usually ourselves. We just sell it.
When you say that you process currently the material yourself, what does that include?
So it's often also cleaning. We have to clean them.
Yeah.
And then we are part of the startup hub at the Royal Danish Academy. So we've been able to use their resources, their facilities to process the materials. And also we're now moving to Trifolium in Südtown, which is also maker space where we have a workshop. And there we can cut them with it's like a stone saw. So you need water to get rid of the dust and the heat. And then we basically just cut them. And we have some more artistic approaches where you like also use like a air pressure tool to create like different surfaces. And then I could dive into it a lot. There's different ways. We also do like surface treatment with like it's a chemical reaction. It's not that we put like chemicals on top of it, but it's a chemical reaction which treats also the surface.
And is that used for then creating like different colors and textures? And
yes.
And is it always then depending on the project, or do you also standardize that process?
Yeah, I think we are in the process of developing the business model. So let's see where it goes. But at the moment, it's like we have this idea of we do collections or selections because we're really into understanding our demolition or building cases. So they also have to have a certain size that we can get an amount. And then we look into a special material which we want to make a collection out of it. So we make the selections. We had a autumn's winter, and now there's a spring summer coming in May, June. We didn't release the date, but we're working on that at the moment with like new cases, for example, the school. And then we have like some easier standardized materials which you can always get because they're always this. After studying the deconstruction or like the supply chain of end of a building, you can see there's a huge amount of this specific material all the time. So it wouldn't be a problem if you ask me today, you want to have like, 100 of square meters next week, I could get the resources. The problem is more the processing at the moment. But
yeah. And regarding processing, and also you said that you have sort of covered the spatial area studying architecture, now the social area studying strategic design, and now as an entrepreneur, how about the economical area, right? And you were recently funded, I have seen, by future manufacturers, by Manufacturing Academy of Denmark, right? It's a sort of...
it's MADE and Dansk Industry together, yeah.
Yes. What will that partnership involve for Recraft?
Yeah, we had our first meeting yesterday. Super exciting. So it's less about the funding, the money. It's more about because we have to apply for the funding to get money for the prototyping and certifications again. But now we are part of this network, and I mean, it's amazing because one of the biggest problems is the manufacturing, or like the most struggling. And it costs a lot of money to test machines and find the right people. I mean, we've been out to test some, for example, a water jet. So we went to South Zealand, and to find this person, get an agreement, testing it. It's a lot of work. It's nice. It's a lot of fun also to meet the people, but it's really nice with this network. We can get it easier, and also like get experts to help us in manufacturing, because they know they know what is done. It's mostly about the guidance, and I'm also really excited because it's a new startup network. So a lot of them are more into electronic and technical devices. We all hardware startups. So we are all the physical startups, but most of them are working with like robots or like more tech, less low tech. But it's really nice to learn from them as well. I think we're going in 2 weeks. We're going for a workshop for some days, and then you learn how they think about a process, for example. So I think it's exciting again, getting another perspective on things, because we are not manufacturers. We are spatial architects, huh?
Yeah.
So, But the business model, I think you worked with organizational design, no? I think it's another complex discipline, which is part of strategic design. But I think, again, you need another background for that. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know anything about business in a way, just the basics.
Yeah.
So it will, but I mean, there's people helping us, and we will test it.
Are you trying to develop the business model also along development of your company? Is that something that's like all the time evolving, or are you trying to set that in stone now and then go more into then pursuing that business model?
No, I think it's actually, it's also a design discipline. It's an iterative process.
Yeah.
So it will change all the way. I guess when we sit down next year, probably everything has changed in the whole business model. We maybe don't produce the tiles ourselves or whatever, I guess it will change a lot during the process. But I had an interesting conversation yesterday evening about, you have to test it. You can't, you can plan it in a way. And I mean, we have this idea of being like a democratic company and whatever, but we don't know how, and we have to test all the things. We have to start somewhere. And now we start quite corporate and having an APS. But like you say, it will be changed during the way. And I think also cases, like they push us in a way. If you have a client or like a project, it's the same with the production. Like we got asked to produce something, and then we have to produce it. And whatever's our possibility now, we have to test if it works.
Yeah.
David, I've visited your office a few times this week. Something is in the making. Can you explain what that is? What's going to happen in April?
We have that's, for example, we got a huge push from, and a great opportunity. We're really crazy thankful for that. It's at the Danish Architecture Center. They're having an exhibition about reuse in architecture. It's called Genbrug, and we are building an installation for them. It's an installation. It's a kitchen, but it's not a functional kitchen. It's an installation, art installation of showing what is actually possible with reused materials. They have a story. They're not like this. I don't know how your kitchens look, but I think most new build kitchens are like this white lacquered anonymous kitchen.
Like mine.
You have one?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, every new building has it, and it's like, and it's actually interesting because it's one of the most replaced things in the house. So it's also like kind of polluting in a way. And our project is then about like, can we actually make it out of reused materials with the story behind? So some of the materials are, for example, from the school. So children have been playing and had like maybe, I don't know, the first kiss or something on that ground, which is now like part of the new kitchen, where people maybe have their new perfect dinner, like these kind of stories, which are
that's nice,
kind of inspiring and motivating us. And that's what the kitchen should reassemble. It's it's not a huge installation, but like 15 square meters or something.
What materials are from the school from that one?
We got our favorite materials, like a paver, like a concrete pavement, which we processed. That's from the school. Yeah. Then there's some wood from a town hall in Tastrup.
Okay. Nice.
There's a mix of materials. You will.
And then you have all these different materials, and then you start looking at the project and try to figure out what can we actually do. And then I assume that you are the ones also designing the kitchen then.
Yeah, which actually was challenging. Because you also have to think about the end of the life, because it will be there for 6 months. What do we do with after? How do we actually disassemble it also and assemble it before? And I think also to design with only our materials was quite challenging because they're quite hard. Like, so it's hard to not be too cold because it should be a cozy kitchen. So there's also something, if we just sell like a tile, it can be placed in maybe a warm room. But yeah, there was also like another layer to it.
When is the exhibition opening? What date?
10th of April. So please, everyone,
is it the
mark your
10th
calendar
of
and come by.
April?
10th of April.
Oh my God, that's soon.
Yeah, but you saw the studio. I mean, you saw the office. It's like, it's more like a storage room now. It has to be.
I can see you have a deadline that's close, but yeah. David, what motivates you in all this? What's the driver for doing Recraft?
I mean, there's so many things. It's also like, I think sometimes when I don't believe in it anymore, there's like people believing in it. It's also like, I think all the kind, amazing network we built up here in Copenhagen or Denmark, it's really supportive, which I think maybe it sounds a bit odd, but it gives you a lot of energy. If you have a moment where you don't believe in it, someone else believes in it, and you're like, okay, we have to rock it somehow. Yeah. And then also for sure, it's like, maybe I didn't introduce myself probably, but I'm a helpless generalist. There's nothing else I can do. That's probably why I also ended up in strategic design and this startup, because I think we do everything every day. And I think that's actually super beautiful to do a mix of like a bit of handwork and trying the stuff and producing, then also writing an email, going to a meeting, to an event, having a podcast with you. I think it's this diversity. It motivates me a lot, I think.
And how does your work dynamic or group dynamic work? I mean, you are all three architects and everyone studied strategic design as well. How does that whole team work together? Do you feel that you all have kind of the same background, or are you able to complement each other in different areas?
Yeah, I think that's actually something funny because like you say, if you look from the outside, we're all the same background, but we are not at all. I think it's also like the mindset of us is different. We have different skills. And I mean, we have a lot of discussions, for example, about like the designs, because we all have different opinions. And that's it's an important process. It's, I think, why we have a kind of a identity now, because we have these different angles and aggressive discussions about like the philosophy of the reuse design. And that's where we're really different. And we have different roles. I mean, we know in the beginning, so I mean, Emilia has been part of the whole, how can we find a way of...
designate areas of expertise, tasks, some responsibility.
Yeah, so we do responsibilities. We don't have, we don't have a CEO or something. We all directors and we all have a main task. So Matti is doing more the logistics and the production. So it doesn't mean that we not all go to the water jet cutting or something, but it's more like he is planning it and looking for people and talking to them. Whereas Caroline does all the beautiful brochure and website and marketing, whatever we do. And then I mostly do like strategy and should do then sales at some point. But I'm looking a lot into strategic partnerships and certification at the moment and fundings.
Yeah.
Okay. And based on what are you then trying to choose the right route? Like how do you go on and create that strategy for Recraft?
Yeah. Really good question. I think it's like I said before, it will probably be many things we try at the same time. So also now we're talking to a lot of different potentials. Like I said before, with the social inclusive work, that's one where we can go. But also there's the opportunity, maybe we just become part of a bigger company in a way.
Okay, yeah.
So also talking to like a big demolisher, developer, to maybe use also their resources. And so there's like all these different scenarios, but we can simulate them.
Yeah.
But
are you trying to get in contact with as many as possible and then trying to kind of filter out those that make sense for you at this moment? Or is it that you are now planning ahead and then based on that you are trying to find your collaboration partners?
Yeah, I think it's more second. I wouldn't say we are shy, but I think it's more, maybe that's how the industry works. We just meet people and it comes from there. I mean, you also want to work with people who like you or you like them. They respect each other. We have a similar value. Maybe that's also because of the studies. I try to reach out to a lot of people, and I think it's important. Everyone should do it, but not everyone gets back. So it was easier to, for example, yesterday we had an event at Trifolium, and then you have nice conversations to people and they say, you should talk to this person. And then this is how it goes. So we have to expose ourselves a lot to.
Yeah, and then it probably happens naturally. That make sense.
Yeah. I think it's also for all of us, for Carolina, Matti, and me, I think it's more our nature in a way to do it natural.
I think it's also very aligned with the Danish culture. That's very network based too.
Yeah.
And you have had also and still have a great network of supervisors and people who advise you and help you. So that's also really great. Who are quite consolidated in the industry, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's also, I can't say it often enough. It's like nothing would happen or have happened without the great people around us. I mean, that's basically how we drive. And that's something I also, one of the reasons why I chose the studies was also like, because I met some Danish people outside of Denmark, and and then the human-centered design and all this collaborative approach in general, which you can feel. I think that's something which got really our identity now as well, but which I didn't know before. But I was craving for it in a way. So I think that's something what is in a way easier here in Denmark to people are helping each other in the industry. It's really like,
well, it's a small country. We have to help each other.
You have to help each other, no? Otherwise,
exactly. How about, David, the most challenging aspects of what you do? Do you have any immediate ideas of what is the most challenging in trying to change some practice in the industry?
I mean, personally, it's really challenging.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think challenging in an exciting way is like we try to place something new. Maybe it's also not so new. There's different companies also doing it, but it's you place something into an existing system, which tries to change the system in a way. And I think that's big time challenging, because I mean, designing something at home or like in the study saying like, oh, we have to change the system, and this is how the perfect system looks like, or the perfect construction industry. But how to get from here to there, I think that's the challenging but also exciting part what we are doing. So we really try to stick to existing systems and tools. Maybe we will invent a machine which can cut properly, but at the moment it's more like, what do we have? What can we do? Let's do it.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, challenging because it's also a lot of physical energy going into that. But yeah.
Yeah. And also you are actually exhibiting at Roskilde Festival this summer, right?
Yes. Also an exciting case, because then it's not set in stone yet, but we have a new collaborator there from Roskilde, where we tested different production as well for the festival. So there's another, again, back to this lean strategy, like we try something new and then we learn from that. I think that's really what we need. So if everyone of the listeners feels like, we want to do a little project or something, please reach out, because I think these small size projects we can test a lot.
Yeah, it's good to demonstrate through them.
Yeah, and also understand. I mean, we learn from that.
Yeah.
And then the circular lab, I mean, it's amazing because you also meet likewise minded people who have like, a lot of them are way further ahead with like this organizational design we talked before. So they have a business model which is truly or partly circular, and you can learn from them. I mean, you can wow, that's a way of doing it. And
it might be too early to ask this, but how are you planning to present at Roskilde Festival? Because I mean, there's many different ways of also testing your material or the process, or what do you want to find out at the circle?
Yeah, I mean, you did it before. I think it's actually a really good question. We had a kickoff meeting 2 weeks ago or something.
Yeah.
Where this question was asked, and I was like, actually, what do we want to test? Because I think what we will test is the strength. So we will probably tile some floors and maybe benches and whatever, and see what happens when people jump on it, dance on it, spill their drinks on it, because we have some coatings, test some new coatings.
It's a perfect context for that. Oh my God.
Exactly.
1,000 festival guests on top of your tiles.
I mean, it's also, I think it will be a nice picture of like, having a lot of people on this tile jumping.
Yeah.
Even though we go to the lab and make a strength test, it looks cooler when like the people are dancing on it.
To tell nice.
Better pictures.
100%. It's a better narrative to like tell because otherwise I think we don't want to test, like, I think you did a lot with aesthetics. I think we won't test that. It's more.
Yeah, a little disclaimer. Isaac participated last year with his company at Roskilde in the Circular Lab. Can you explain what you did?
What we did was we tried to figure out what kind of shapes or combinations of different shapes for a desk lamp was the most compelling for people. So we had 3 variations of different bases, and then 3 different, so to say, hats for the lamp. And then we just had people to build their own ideal lamp of those combinations. But it's like a great possibility for companies of completely different areas to try different things out. I mean, there was companies who had developed, a card game, to then companies working with mycelium, like very, new thinking and high tech in a way. And then there were also architects, designing buildings, or like what do you call, like a facade or a pavilion.
Yeah.
So like completely different companies.
Yeah.
But I think that Recraft will be super good for that test lab.
Yes.
Because you have the material, and you can also, as you're saying, you can stress test the material. You can also ask just for feedback on, the aesthetic sides. But I think that, or my takeaway from that whole experience was that you really need to go in and ask the right questions, because you could ask 100 different questions, right, David? As you're saying, also, like what do you actually want to know from that experience? So yeah, I think that would be super fun to see what you figure out to do there.
You should come by.
Yeah, I will. But that I assume that it's quite different compared to your exhibition now in April. Like, it's a completely different setting, and also different people who's going to be there.
Yeah.
How do you see that? Is that something that you look forward to, also have different people to test it out, or is that also just one more challenge that you need to solve?
No, actually a lot, because I think it would be, I mean, it's also more, it's a dream to develop also one product line or product which is like for everyone, like it's aesthetically pleasant for like the daily Dane, and also financially feasible for everyone. So I think in that sense, it's kind of cool to go to a festival and meet young minds, because the average is young.
Yeah,
we got some statistics. It's also, and we won't sell like high-end kitchen cladding on this event. So I think it's kind of
no.
But it's nice to meet also different target group. If you do a business talk in a way, but also it's about fun. I think it will be a lot of fun to just maybe make even a workshop to build it up with people together.
Good idea.
Building together. Yeah. It's always fun. And then, I don't know, having some drinks, enjoying the sun, whatever, some music. I think that will be about a lot of fun, I would say.
Yeah. Could be worse. How much do you work with other designers? Is that also a goal of yours, to kind of get this material to them, or is it mostly you designing different applications for the material that you get your hands on?
We considered that before, making like collaboration collections and stuff. But I think that's more an idea. We never came to this point, because also now, if I would come to you and say like, can you design a tile, and then we can't produce it anyway, like in that way. It's
okay.
I think that's something, but I think it's a future scenario. I mean, that would be amazing, beautiful to work with other designers.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear the example that you had you're working also with a school, right? With a project.
Yeah, it's just like a sourcing. We get materials from the school.
Okay.
We don't design anything. But it's an interesting. It's a really interesting school, because there was a building added to it every 10 years. So if you also look at the toxicity on the plan, you can see every 10 years there's a new toxic material used. And also when you harvest materials, you can really like, this was built in the 70s, this 50s. It's kind of cool how you can, because it's also like this pavilion structure. Kind of really interesting case to work with.
What school is that?
It's Sörger School in Smørum.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
How did you find them? Did someone tell you that there is a school where you can source the materials from, or did you just go out and look for random buildings?
No, we have mentioned before, we have a little network. So we have collaboration partners in that part, the sourcing part of our value chain. And that's a demolition company called Søndergaard. They're really big and really also advanced in like disassembling building and deconstructing building. They're one of the experienced in like good deconstruction. So they really they don't just like punch the buildings down and waste everything. They really they also have their own supply chain and already have a network of giving things out. So they actually, our contact person, I think he's just like, he sees the project and he calls people like, we have this, do you need it? So, and we've been just asking, do you have an interesting case? And he was like, actually, that's a fun case. You should go there and see it. And then it's also part of the duck exhibition. You will, there's a video where I'm unfortunately not in the video because I wasn't there, but Matti and Caro walk around and you can see how they source from this. So it's part of the exhibition.
Another thing regarding what you do is that demolition processes are typically not done by people who are professionals, right? So it can actually be quite difficult sometimes with some companies or places to source materials that are usable again, that can be reused, right?
That's how we started the project. I mean, because most of the demolition sites are not deconstructed. They are really heavily demolished and everything is a war zone. And then all the materials which are on economic value, they get sourced, like metals, because you can sell them. And the ones you pay to get rid of, they're just lying around and then we could take them. So that's how the whole started. But I think there's, as you said, I think demolition was not a craft before, but I think it's becoming one. So companies like Channing and Sondergaard, they really develop because they have a lot of expertise. They know their game. They know what they're doing. So it's becoming a craft. And I think, isn't there even the first, I think there was something in Sondergaard, not the first apprentice, but something like it's becoming even like a craft.
Something you can become by education. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, moving on to a completely different question. You defined yourself as a helpless generalist. In that sort of definition, what would you believe is the most crucial trait that someone needs to possess to do what you do or to be a strategic designer?
Being generalistic, no.
Being helpless.
I think
and collaborating with others.
Yes. No, but I think there's an interesting mix, which actually I struggled when I was young. I struggled with being a generalist and curious.
What?
And I was always like, that's again, I think it's about putting a name tag on it. So I think people, maybe I'm going a bit off topic, but I think putting a label on it, this is sugar free. So you know what you get in a way. And I think it's the same with, like, for example, an architect, people know what they're doing in a way socially. And strategic designer, nobody knows what they're doing. So in that sense, I feel when I go out, it doesn't help the label to put it on me to say I'm a strategic designer, but it helps people to. Does that make sense?
Yes.
For me, at least when I go somewhere, I'm like, okay, no, maybe it's.
Is the helpless? No, I think it's good. Is the helplessness because you're in deep water somehow? That you're like approaching new areas all the time by this curiosity?
Yes. And I think it's also then about now we're diving into strategic, because I think it's a mindset, of strategic design. It's not a profession yet, but I think it will become, or it is a profession also, but I think it will become a defined thing in some. I mean, if you think about, like, I don't know, service design or something, and now UX design as a job, people know what you're doing. It's something, it's defined now. But if you look back some years, it's like, what is it really? And I think it's the same with the strategic design. It's like defining itself now. But for me at the moment, it's more my mindset. And I drive on because you can be a strategic designer with a business background. So you're really good in also designing organizations. That's something I unfortunately not be really skilled in, even though I would love to, because I'm a generalist and curious. My background is just like building. So I know about this environment. So I can be a strategic designer in this environment and can really help. But if that makes sense. So I think it's like this add-on.
Exactly. And strategic design is also the acknowledgement that you can't do anything alone, that you actually do need all the other generalists from their fields, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I also think what you just said about it's not defined, I think somehow it is defined, it's not, that's why we're making this podcast, but it lacks the understanding, it lacks the common understanding from its recipients, from the industry. So at some point, if it becomes a consolidated profession in the understanding of it, people will start demanding it much more, right? Because they all know, we need a strategic designer in the team to be able to shed light on these perspectives, and not just the services, not just the user experiences, but the holistic aspects, right?
100%.
Yeah. And you can't become a strategic designer in 1 or 2 years. It's something you develop. It's something you experience and you work with along the way, but it's a mindset shift somehow, right? For all of us, I think. Yeah.
But I think a lot, if I look at the cohort we studied, you had it in you before. You just got just help to unfold it again. Yeah. So I think that's something. And there's tools you learn and use, but it's not a rigid craft. I learned. It's more. It's so true. So, but what is the trait? Like I need to have?
Yeah, if you have any trait.
Isn't it
skill.
jack of all trades?
The trade is jack of all trades.
But,
Smart, strategic answer.
Yeah. I think also being a bit resilient. I think that's also quite useful because there's a lot of downs and
Yeah.
And I think you have to be okay with uncertainty. I think that's something. Let's maybe say curiosity and uncertainty. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like even enjoying it a bit to see like, there's no answer, but we have to make a decision here, and we will be uncertain of like what happens or what is the proper solution. It's just like one solution. So I think it's something, maybe being curious about uncertainty and different scenarios.
Yeah, because whenever you open a box of solutions or problems, it add more problems, right? It's like you keep on opening this babushka doll, and it just keeps on having. I don't know. That was a weird metaphor, but you know what I mean.
No, but
right?
I think it's true. You find more and more. But I think that's also back to my reference with the architecture again. It's like this. If we design it like this, actually. That's a funny example. Maybe I don't want to go too much, but there's this case where the Barcelona pavilion. I don't know if you know it. It's a masterpiece of modern architecture, and it's obviously in Barcelona. But there's a problem with like birds. So they have a cat which is going there during the night. So the birds smell the cat, so they don't shit on the pavilion anymore. But then the cat is living downstairs because there's all the tourists coming during the day, and the cat got blind because it's living in the dark.
No,
the whole time. And that's also like, something that's part of the architecture and what is interesting about this case, for example, as well. It's like linked to this. I don't know. The big thing is also part of the screw at the end. So, and if the screw, like if people getting sick from the screw because they have to mine the aluminium or whatever, then it's a problem in the big scale. And I think that's the strategic desigin
causes
curiosity.
and effects.
Yeah. I think you need to have, and at some point you have to stop. I mean, at some point you have to draw the line. But I think that's something about.
You have to find your place in it, definitely. But keep the curiosity going, right?
Yeah, but also protect yourself, no?
Yeah.
You get like, you could also start a cat rehabilitation center now as a solution. It's
I think that would be suitable in that case.
Like a medical device to make them, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. How about, David, if you have an advice for anyone who seeks a career, let's say as an architect, becoming a strategic designer working in the Danish construction industry, do you have any advice for them on what to do or what not to do?
I think definitely reach out to people and ask like if they can give you an advice. But in general, it's like what we talked a bit about. Find something you're passionate about, because the field of architecture or the field of strategic design, it's huge. Maybe find something you're curious on and have fun about. Like, I didn't know that I actually really like materials before, but if I look at my CV now, I'm like, actually, I always work with like craft and materials my whole life. So maybe it's something I can pick up in a different perspective now in architecture and strategic design. So maybe it's something like that. Find something you love and make it in a different way, maybe to your profession, or like, doesn't have to be profession, but you know what I mean. It's we find this little thing. I mean, if you love skating and urban planning, then why not becoming a skate park planner or something,
Yes, good point. David, can you share your top 3 book or podcast recommendations?
I was scared for this question, to be honest. Yeah. But I think I will make the teachers proud now, because I really like this. I mean, I draw now a lot on it also in this podcast about this architecture strategic design combination. So I really like this actor network theory from Bruno Latour. And there's I will now call a scientist, Janeva. She wrote a book about the actor network theory in architecture, and it's about this dynamic network of like what I said with the regulations, and this is shaping a building. And I think it's pretty amazing and fun to read for everyone who's interested in like systems, the built environment, and architecture. And there's a short version of it. It's called "Give Me a Gun and I Make Every Building Move."
Super nice, good recommendation.
So definitely, you can just download it. It's also a short PDF. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Then I can really recommend this podcast. I'm always listening to it.
Oh, yes, you're a biggest supporter. I think that's so nice. It's like, when is the next episode out?
yeah. I'm actually wondering when is the next episode.
Yeah, soon. Don't pressure us.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Huh?
And now for the coming months, what will you work with? I mean, you have the exhibitions, but is there anything else that will happen now, the coming months or within the first year?
Our moving for me is now, it's a big thing to move to Trifolium, to the new workspace and setting it up. I think we have to get some new tools, starting this future manufacturers program and look into them, because it's purely about manufacturing in this program. It's not about any business advice or something. I mean, it's partly part of it, but it's not really like about that. So I think there's a lot of production research coming. And then also I think I have a pile of coffee dates I really have to do after this exhibition.
Ooh,
so there's
nice.
a lot of
fun.
For sure, really nice. But it's we postponed a lot of meetings and partnerships. So I think there's a lot of research in the production and social meetings and seeing what kind of collaborationships we can do.
Is there any way for people to get in contact with you? Is it through LinkedIn, or do you have an email address that people can write to?
I think the best is really just go to recraftdesigns.com, and then that's our website, but we also have an Instagram, Recraft Designs. We call it Recraft Design Studio, also on LinkedIn, and you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. Yeah, I also have Instagram, but I'm not too much.
But Recraft is, at least.
The Recraft is,
active.
Yeah, we have a nice Instagram. Just reach out. We're always happy to have coffees and chat and whatever you're up to. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us, David. It's been a huge pleasure. It was nice to have you on board.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you all for listening to Unfolding Strategic Design. We look forward to meeting more guests in our coming episodes and to close off season 1. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring. If you enjoyed today's episode of Unfolding Strategic Design, make sure to follow us on LinkedIn, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. Your support helps us bring in more inspiring voices from the world of strategic design.